Hey guys, Chad Drake here. So today I'm going to do a video on rebuilding a water pump for a V8-60 1937 to 1940 Ford flathead, little 60 horsepower flathead. Here's a water pump for one. I decided to do this video because I could not find a video to be helpful enough to use. So I have been asking advice and getting some help from a few guys. So anyways, this is my 60. This is a 37, it's a 10 side. I've got the transmission I've already rebuilt, got it all painted up. The engine is been cleaned, disassembled, painted. I've got a bunch of parts down here that I've got to blast. I've got two of these actually going on, so I've got to get some parts blasted. Earlier I did press apart. The only thing that, just real quick to help understand this, there is a spring that goes from here, and you can see it sticking out there, and it actually attaches this impeller on here, just like this right here. So that's what holds the impeller on there. The pulley is of course pressed on. Put it like this. The pulley is pressed on. The impeller is held on with a spring. There is a bushing that goes there, and then this spanner nut is what actually holds it on to the timing or the front cover of the engine. And we have a pulley here. So I did this once earlier. I'm going to do it now on video because I could not find anything helpful online to help me. So I figured I would do this to try to help others going forward. I don't have any special tools. I'm going to be using this 12-ton little shop press, and I'm going to be using this bearing splitter right here. I got this kit on Amazon for, I don't know, like 20 to 30 bucks. It's cheap, it's useful. I use it for pulling the bearing off the front of transmissions, T5 transmissions. This is a jig that I use for full-size water pump pulleys, but I think going forward, I'm going to use this because it feels better. The other two things that I'm going to be using as press implements or press tools, I'm going to be using a 7/16 deep well 1/4-inch drive because that is the perfect size to push the bushing out. And I'm going to be using a 1/4-inch, a little 1/4-inch. This is probably the most important one, deep well. It's got a tapered head on it here. This is the one that I will be using. Once we get the spring out of here, I'll be using this to press everything down and keep the pulley, basically pulling the pulley off the shaft. So these two are important. Again, that's a 1/4-inch deep well and a 7/16 deep well, both 1/4-inch drive. So first, what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to pull this little thing up here. Oh, there went the clip. Now, earlier I had to get some channel locks and kind of coax this thing off. The impeller won't spin on the shaft, but it will pull out. It's just that the spring has so much oil, and there it comes. So here's the impeller and the spring. Oh yeah, before I forget also, here are the instructions. If you want to look at the instructions here and pause it so you can read them. I can also put this up on like a Google link, and I can leave a link in the video. But if I don't, and if you need them, let me know. But here's the instructions on disassembly and then reassembly. So first, these things have a little rubber cap. The rubber cap was removed whenever I disassembled the engine. Pull the spring out far enough to remove the spring retainer. The spring retainer flew over my shoulder earlier, so you guys saw that. And I removed the impeller and spring already. So now we've got to do in my opinion, the most intimidating part of this is press or pull off the pulley. So let's get down to doing that. And I will be doing it right here where the press is at. All right. I'm sure there's many other ways to do this. There are probably better ways to do this, but this is the best way that I can think of right now to do this. I started to do it earlier with the other jig that I built, that I showed you. This here. But when I was using this, it was only, what do you think, 60, 70, probably 60% of the pulley was touching the jig. And there is some flex in this. So whenever I was pushing it, I could feel this flexing, which I didn't like. Also, all the pressure in using this puts all the pressure on the outer lip of whichever part of the pulley you're pushing on. In my case, it was the bottom side because that's where I felt like I should push. But it just didn't feel right, so I stopped and got off of it. And I've already put a little bit of WD-40 on these things before all this, just to help them get a little bit of lubricant in them. So I've got this set up. I feel good about it. It's hugging that pulley the best that I can do it. It's laying nice and flat. And I have this little 1/4-inch drive socket that I'm using to push. The other thing, before I forget too, I think it's a really good idea to put some soft material underneath your press. If something does fall, where the face of where the impeller touches, it's important that that's flat to help maintain a good sealing surface. So it is going. Now you don't want this to fall and land on the floor and dent this face. That I think, in my opinion, would give this thing the best chance of leaking if you dent this. So use some foam or a blanket or pillow or something other. So this still has the bearing inside of it. I noticed right off on this one is supposed to have a little ring inside of it. So right now we're remove impeller and spring, we've done that. Press pulley off, we've done that. Remove shaft and bearing retainer wire. This is step number 5. We don't have to do it because it's not there. I'll show you what it's supposed to look like since it's not there. Basically, it's just this wire. If you've ever put wrist pins in flathead pistons, it's kind of like that. So anyways, it's not there. Don't have to worry about it. So in that case, after that, the next step is to press out the shaft and bearing. So the shaft and bearing is this is the shaft, the bearing is inside of here. And this is the tip of it here. So this is where your 7/16 deep well comes into play. Here's the spanner nut. It goes like that inside the engine and holds the whole device on the engine. All right, so for this one, I'm just using my regular plates to push this one. So I will push it. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I've got the whole piece here. My push surface is here. I'm holding it like that with these plates. and then I'm pushing this downward. And this whole shaft with that bearing on it is actually part of the rebuild kit, so it comes with a new one of those. Actually, I was wrong there. We're still on the 1/4 inch drive. I was wrong. The 7/16 is not used yet. The 7/16 drive is used next whenever we push out the bronze bushing, which also comes in the kit, the rebuild kit. So now we've got the shaft out. This is the bearing and shaft of the water pump. Here's the body, and here's the bronze bushing. Hopefully you can see that. And that is where we will use the 7/16 inch deep well, which fits perfectly to push that bronze bushing out. So I've got the body of the pump, the sealing surface here, the front or the back of the pump, held the same way in the plates around that neck there. Now I'm pushing out the bronze bushing. And there it is. And that's actually it as far as disassembly goes. So now what I'm going to do is I'll clean these up, these parts here that are to be reused, which would be the pulley, body, spanner nut. And then the rebuild kit consists of the gaskets. It also consists of the roller shaft here and also a bronze bushing. The bronze bushing goes on the tail shaft of this little thing here, this little shaft. So I'll clean these parts up and we will reassemble. So I'll read the instructions here. Oh, we need to remove the old gasket ring, so I guess I should do that. Since it is on the instruction. Here it is, here are these two gaskets. There's one here and there's one here. I found it's easier just to split it in half and then peel it off like that. And then of course, I soak these in mineral spirits and wire wheel the heck out of them. Clean them out real good. Not only are they dirty, but they're caked full because these water pumps actually receive motor engine oil. So, I mean, I don't know if you can see inside of here, but it is absolutely full of stuff like that. So there's pretty good bit of cleaning for one of these little things here. All right, so the first step for reassembly, press in a new bronze bushing. The second step is press in new shaft and bearing assembly. Caution, press on outer race, CA on sketch. So it's saying right here, press on the outer part of the race. Which in my opinion, it's talking about as far out its outer edge. It doesn't want you to use here to press this bearing shaft in. Step 3 is replace shaft and bearing snap wire. That's the little piston spring looking wire that goes right here to retain this thing. And then to press on the pulley after that. It says note on the early Ford 60 pumps where their spanner ring, that's this little spanner nut I was telling you, this ring must be assembled on the body before pressing on the pulley. So we'll have to remember to put the spanner nut on before putting on the pulley. And it says smooth on a film of oil on the impeller sealing face and coat spring with heavy oil. Make a hook from some stiff wire and attach to spring, extending the spring far enough through shaft and hook spring to impeller. Pull spring through and slip ring retainer in place. Slip rubber cap over pulley to cover end of shaft. Place gaskets around pump body. All right, here we go. Putting it together. So here's everything that comes in the rebuild kit. We have the impeller. We have the little nose cone, the little rubber piece that kind of goes on the tip of the pulley. We've got a bronze bushing that'll go on the shaft. It'll press into the body of the pump. Here's the spring that goes on the end of the impeller. Here we have these two washers. These are the ones that go, or gaskets I mean, these are the ones that go on the tapered water pump. These are not going to be used right now. This is the retaining wire for this piece once we push this shaft and bearing in. Here's the little piece that secures the end of this spring right here once it sticks out of the tip. And then that, of course, the nose cone would cover that tip. So, all right, here we go. Again, same place, same tool, same thing. Got the instructions here with me. Oh, one thing I did add. I did add another socket to the tool kit here for pressing purposes. This is one of the heavy duty black thick wall impacts. It's a 1/2 inch drive and it is a 3/4. And the reason I chose this is because that note that we read earlier where it says caution to press on the outer race, this thing fits the outer race perfectly. And it also slides in, well, we don't need it to slide in far, but just past the opening there when it pushes that thing in. So that's good. Step 1, it says press in new bronze bushing. I have a new bronze bushing. It's kind of tarnished. It's been in a box for a long time. So right here, there's where to press. I do have a little bit of grease here. Trying to get it to stand up perfectly straight so we don't start it crooked. And there it goes. feel it bottom out there, so it's at least flush right now. So we've got our new bushing in. Honestly, didn't feel like much was wrong with the other one, but since it was in the kit, I went ahead and pulled the old one out and stuck the new one in. Step number 2, press in new shaft and bearing assembly. Caution, press on outer race. So here's our new bearing assembly right here. And this will push in like this. So I think it can sit flat here. And then we will use this big socket to press it like that. I'm gonna have to drop this down 1 notch. This is just a little cheap 12-ton press. I bought it at Northern Tool. I don't remember how much it was, but the more powerful ones they get expensive. This one is not expensive, but it does everything that I need it to do. So I feel like it's enough. Plus it doesn't take up much space. I need to put some casters on it though, so I can roll it around. That would be nice. I don't really know that I should put grease on this stuff to push it, but it ain't gonna hurt anything to have a little bit of grease, I don't think. Maybe keep it from rusting a little bit inside, I don't know, but I'm gonna add a little bit. The other thing I wanna do, I'm gonna put a little bit of grease in this bushing, because once I get this shaft in there, there is no more getting to it. Might as well get a little in it. All right. Set that on there. Got my 3/4 inch heavy duty impact socket. There it goes. I can feel some resistance there. But I was, I felt resistance, kind of dumb really. I stopped as soon as I felt it. I think that's one of the keys to using a press, is to know when to stop. If you feel it doesn't feel right, then stopping is better than not stopping. In my case, the little tail shaft was bottoming out because I didn't have it on a hole. It should go right on in now. Should be in all the way. Now this is where the little wire goes in, a little retaining wire. That's why it was bottoming out earlier. It's hitting that. I cleaned this very well. I cleaned all these holes out, and I got a hook in one in there and cleaned all the inner housing with some mineral spirits and blew it out with some brake clean, so it's good and clean. So here we have this little spring clip. This thing just has a little groove it rides in. So here's a little spring clip in there. It appears seated well. All right, next step. After replacing the shaft and bearing snap wire, which is what we just did, it says press on the drive pulley. So here we have the drive pulley. It says note, on the early Ford 60, the pumps were held on the spanner ring. This ring must be assembled on the body with forward pressing on the pulley. Caution, support the pump on the opposite end of the shaft when pressing on pulley. Support the pump on the opposite end of the shaft when pressing on pulley. So that is telling me your pressing surface is here, the very end right there. So we will set it on the plate. We will put the pulley like this, of course, like the instructions just said very clearly. We will put this on the spanner nut, or spanner ring, I think is what they're calling it. And then we will press this pulley on just like that. I'm trying to make it make sense in my mind to press on this tip instead of pressing on this. I think the reason, I get it. Obviously it's very, very important. It calls it out twice in a caution note, so. I'm going to put just a little bit of grease on there. Try to make sure this thing's square. Probably would have been quicker to reset the platform on this, but I think I've got enough to push it on down here. This thing only goes on at 3/4 of an inch, I think. I'm really trying to make sure that I do my best to not mess this pulley up. These things are expensive. Rebuilding them, it's like between 50 and, I don't know, 50. I've seen the rebuild kits are priced like 50 to 110, maybe $120 a kit. I think I paid $69 a kit for my rebuild kits. The water pumps themselves are around $400 a set if you can find them for a rebuilt pump. All right, we've got the nut on. I think everything is ready. So now the pulley is pressing on pretty nicely. I'm gonna take a quick look just to be sure. Yeah, it's pushing on good. It's probably a little bit tight because there's a little bit of overspray. A little bit of overspray inside of this. Inside the pulley. Let's see how close that is. That is pretty close there. Feels good to me. I felt it bottom out, and it is flush here. So I'm thinking this part that we're coming up on is going to be the most difficult. And that is this. You've got to take this impeller. The impeller goes on the back of this little thing, and it catches these teeth right here hold the impeller to keep it from spinning, and it allows it to spin one-to-one with the pulley here. So this little spring, this is a very, very stiff spring, extremely stiff spring. So we got to put the spring here. It's got a little hook on the back of the spring, and it hooks to the little metal shaft on the impeller there. I've got to coat this thing in grease, is what the instructions say. So, but anyways, it goes in like this first, or I got to coat it in grease in a moment. I'm just doing this as a display. So I've got to get something to pull this out. That's going to be the tough part, I think. I think I have an idea. I think I'll use a piece of wire, make a U, thin wire, pull it out. And once we get it pulled out, that wire, that tip of that spring there, this little thing, this little keeper, slide over the end of that, and it will hold that spring taut, very tight in there, and that'll keep the water, the impeller, up against that, the body of the pump here. And as the pulley spins, that's what moves the water. Other than that, what we have is a little rubber cone here, snaps right over the end there, gives it a nice finished look. And then we've got the two little rubber band looking gaskets here, one shorter, one's a little bit longer, and they go in these two grooves. So now you are going to watch me struggle with this spring. I've already been forewarned by some of my friends that this is a tough thing to do here. So we're going to give it our best. Grab a piece of wire. Alright, I have just a piece of wire here. I don't know if this will work, but I don't know why it wouldn't. I'm just going to kind of make this skinny. This will give me some grip Made it extra long to give me a little bit of grip. Now what I'm thinking is to do like this. And then I'll send this whole thing. I'll send this whole thing right here up through this water pump. Just like this. I was trying to make sure this isn't, the impeller's on good, and I ended up taking it off while I was checking it here, so. Oh yeah. So yeah, so now I've got to take it, I got to put grease on it still, but anyways, look, it's perfect. Pull that out and put that little clip, and it's good to go. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the impeller back out, and I'm going to coat this spring with some grease because the instructions say to use a heavy oil, I think is what it says. Smooth on a film of oil on the impeller sealing face and coat spring with heavy oil. Make a hook from something stiff wire. Make a hook from some stiff wire and attach to spring, extending the spring far enough through the shaft and hook spring to impeller. Pull spring through and slip spring retainer in place. Cool. I think that is exactly what we were doing. A little bit of oil, or there's a little bit of grease. Everything's falling apart under here. We are close, fellas. We are close. I'm going to hold it with my legs. I don't know if you can see it very well, but oh. All right. So now I just need to, I'll probably cut this wire and pull it right out of there. I feel like it's a pretty good job. I feel like it's a well-built pump. Just got to put them little gaskets on it. And honestly, I may wait to put these gaskets on it just because I'm still in the process of building this engine. I don't know, it won't hurt anything, I don't guess. This is the bigger of the gaskets. This one's the smaller of the two. It's hard doing this with both my hands and then trying to video also. But anyways, I feel like we've got it, guys. And here's the little end cap that goes on there. It just sticks right on. That's it. Let me know what you think. Also, consider subscribing. Tell me some stuff that you'd like to see. I normally don't post a lot of stuff on YouTube. I'm really more of one to learn from YouTube, to be honest with you, but I could not find any, I couldn't find any videos showing how to do this. There was a video titled talking about how to do it, but all the guy did was install the pumps, didn't rebuild it. So this is 100% disassembly and reassembly of a 1937 to 40 Ford Flathead V8-60, 60 horsepower. Thank you guys.